Now, India tells Canada to withdraw dozens of diplomatic staff. Ottawa has been told by New Delhi that it must repatriate roughly 40 diplomats by October 10th, according to people familiar with the demand. This is the big breaking news coming in as far as the entire tussle between India and Canada is concerned. Now, India, in a stern word to Canada, has told them to withdraw dozens of diplomatic staff. Ottawa has been told by New Delhi that it must repatriate roughly 40 diplomats by October 10th of this month, according to people familiar with the demand. Now, this is the big breaking news coming in about the entire tussle between India and Canada. This is a big move made by the central government. To give us more details about that, we have CNN News 18's Abhishek Jha joining us on the phone line. Abhishek, could you walk us through the latest development that we are breaking for our viewers?
Well, on the issue of diplomats, there has been some movement, it seems, because India has asked for Canadian government to have a parity on rank and strength among the diplomats, and it seems ever since that diplomatic fallout between the two sides, number of Indian diplomats in Canada is pretty less than what number of Canadian diplomats are deputed in Delhi in various missions across India. So that is something that India has demanded in the wake of the diplomatic face-off between the two sides, and it seems that very soon many of the diplomats from the Canadian mission will have to pack up and leave for their own country.
So that's a big move that has come in from central government. Abhishek, how do you think it is going to affect India and Canada's ties now?
Well, a lot of Indian students who go to Canada, and there are hundreds and thousands of people who every year wish to go to Canada. So, there is an entire process of those applications of visa applications or PR applications from India, which is processed by the Canadian High Commissioner and its various missions across India. So maybe those stuff, it will get some impact. Also, there are three layers of staff which are deputed in a High Commission or in any embassy. First is, of course, the diplomats who have the diplomatic immunity. Second is the official passport holders. So who are the people actually responsible for a lot of office work and documentation. And the third category is the locally recruited staff, which is taken from or recruited from the host country. So what India has asked that the strength and parity will be applied at the level of diplomats who have diplomatic immunity, and they are pretty senior, and they are like the civil servants from the other country. So number of these people or these officials will be reduced, while the office staff or people who have been holding white official passport, that is going to remain almost the same, because India has at least not asked for them to go back. And the number of local recruits is something that the Canadian embassies or the high commissions across the country will take a call how many of people they will continue to be with, and whether there will be some laying off as well because of the reduction in the work. And that will also depend on how long this entire diplomatic standoff will continue, whether Canadian and Indian bilateral relationship will continue to go down, because it will have some, bearing on the number of people or number of students, business person who every year go to Canada. From Canadian side, we have already seen India has issued an advisory, and it has stopped processing any visa application from the Canadian citizen who wish to come to India. So there's a huge thing that is going on between the two sides, and now the diplomatic stand-off is taking its toll on the people-to-people engagement as well.
Right, Abhishek, what can be seen as a big blow to Canadian diplomatic staff residing here in India? They have been told to pack up and, leave for their country. What do you think is going to be US's stand here now?
Well, US is allied to Canada. US is a good friend to India, and US has been very actively engaged and frequently engaged with the Indian side also on the issue. Also, it has been, siding along with Canada to some extent when it says that the allegation leveled by the Canadian side is very grave in nature, and that needs a thorough investigation, and India should cooperate on that. So, US is trying to balance its cards between the two allies or between the two good friends. But at the same time, US doesn't have any locus standi on number of people that India has asked Canadian authorities to reduce a number of diplomats from the Indian side. It may, however, see all the events unfolding between the two sides with a very cautious approach, because if the number of diplomats who go back to Canada continues to be like that, it's going to really have an impact on the India-Canada bilateral relationship, be it in terms of economic engagement, people-to-people engagement, cultural engagement, or other areas of cooperation that the two sides were going to be setting.
Do we have any word coming in from Canadian side as well, Abhishek, so far?
Well, they are bound to follow the normal obligation of parity in rank and strength between the two sides. Normally, it happens that it's normal trusted partners. They have an understanding that okay, you have a lot of work in India, so probably you will need more people or more diplomats to be deputed in the various missions across India. So in that case, it's just the understanding, unsaid trust between the two sides, which allows number of people to keep rising or not having as, in terms of parity. But when the trust deficit is very much there, then the two sides fall back on the real obligations, or the Vienna Convention is invoked between the two sides. And this is where India has asked the Canadian side to have a parity and call back extra number of diplomats. We believe about 30 diplomats of India are deployed in various missions in Canada, and more than double of that Canadian diplomats were deployed in India. So in a way, 30 to 40 diplomats approximately from the Canadian side will have to go back to Canada to keep the number at parity with what number of Indian diplomats are presently in Canada.
Abhishek, since we are talking about withdrawal of dozens of diplomatic staff here from New Delhi back to Canada, how are the business deals and the other deals that are currently underway between India and Canada going to be affected from this?
Well, it seems that Canadian government had factored in some of the implication that it will have if Justin Trudeau would stand in the floor of the parliament and allege those serious allegations on the Indian agency's role in the killing of Nijjar. Because about a week before Justin Trudeau's announcement, Canada has put a pause button on the free trade agreement that was being negotiated between the two sides. That would have allowed, smooth, transaction of goods and services between the two sides. So something was already in the mind of the Canadian government before they stood and they started leveling those serious allegations against India. So probably that economic impact was very well factored in by the Canadian side. We also know that when India has asked number of diplomats to go back from the Canadian side, they also know that it is going to have some impact, some bearing on the people-to-people engagement, but probably they are also ready for that, because the kind of allegations that the Canadian government has labeled against India, which is kind of unprecedented between the two strategic allies, because India and Canada share that type of relationship as well on theoretically. And if you have a strategic ally relationship and then you kind of label those allegations that you are interfering in our internal affairs and you are not treating the terrorists of one ally to and you call them a freedom fighter or freedom of expression and all, that is something that India has stopped accepting, and it is going to go ahead full throttle in keeping under check all the Khalistani terrorists in Canada or in other parts of the world also, wherever they are, be it on the soils of any friend or ally or any partner countries of India. And this is what we have seen in the last 1 week or so.
Abhishek, we want to understand from you, as far as US's stand is concerned, they have been continuously reiterating on the same point that, India should be cooperating with the Canadian investigation. Do you think that this move that has been made by New Delhi towards Ottawa can be seen as a stern response to the West as well?
One can see this with multiple meanings, because when the Canadian High Commission in Delhi was called by Ministry of External Affairs and they lodged their strong protest, during those time only India had asked for the Canadian side to ensure that the rank and parity, rank and strength parity is maintained between the diplomats. And that was the kind of message that if you are messing up with us, then we are going to go ahead with all of our options. And this is what one option is. India has also issued an advisory. So now, whether this step will sour the relationship between the two sides or not, that concept or that thinking has been left behind pretty much. And now India is here to counter what allegations Canadian side has given without any substantial proof. So far, it's been almost 10 days and we haven't seen any substantial documents or evidence that has been produced by the Canadian side to Delhi, or for that matter to any other countries. Indian External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has also said that if we are given any document or any intelligence input, probably we'll look into it, and then the issue of cooperation will come. But with the kind of allegations and then an eerie silence from the Canadian side, this is just looks like a political compulsion that the Canadian government was going ahead with, and now that political compulsion, domestic political compulsion, is having a serious impact on the bilateral relationship, and Delhi is in no mood to take it lying low or lying down, and we have seen all the serious measures that Delhi has taken in terms of diplomatic calling, asking the diplomats to go back, issuing advisory, calling the number of diplomats to be reduced, and this is all is not very good for the bilateral relationship. But then this is how it has unfolded in the last 10 days.
Right, Abhishek. We'll request you to please stay with us because we have another major piece of breaking news coming in.